Welcome to I Love the 50s, 1856. I'm Dane Corpian.
I'm Max Werner. And our other anchor, Nick Manos, is not here right now. Dane, where is he?
Apparently he's breaking into another house.
Ooh, let's hope his alibi this time holds up.
On to congressional news. In U.S. Senate Hall, Senator Preston Brooks beats Charles Sumner.
Literally beats him.
With a cane.
We're not joking.
We'll update you with Charles Sumner's status in a few.
In presidential news, President Pierce's term was coming to an end, and since he was abandoned by his party, he was not up for re-election. The two major candidates in the upcoming election, John Fremont and Philip Buchanan, competed in heated debates. Let's take you out to one of those about the Kansas-Nebraska Act. Presidential candidates, the topic for debate is the Kansas-Nebraska Act. Please state your opinions.
Well, the Kansas...
I'll go first. The idea of popular sovereignty is beneficial to maintaining the idea of democracy and giving people what they want. People should have the right to decide for themselves.
No, but slavery is bad for the future prosperity of this country. The expansion of slavery will lead only into future conflict. As seen in the bloodbath going on in Kansas right now, popular sovereignty does not work and leads only to violence. Repealing the Missouri Compromise will be a step in the wrong direction for this country, and the system of slavery as it is destroying the Republican values in which this nation was founded upon.
The election of a Republican candidate will lead to the secession of multiple slave states and therefore harm the Union. Republicans are extremists and their power will result in a civil war.
But there's already a pseudo-civil war going on in Kansas and Nebraska right now. Something must be done.
Candidates, any last remarks?
Buchanan, Breckinridge, and the Union.
Free speech, free men, free soil, Fremont, victory.
After many heated debates, the results of the election was a win for President-elect Buchanan. This was due to Fremont's lack of ability to carry slave states. Now for an update in art and music.
Let's throw it over to Jazzy Nick in the Fine Arts Corner.
Take it away, Jazzy.
Good afternoon, children. Welcome to the Fine Arts Corner with Jazzy Nick in the AM. I'm your host, Jazzy Nick. Ba-da, da-da, snap, snap, snap. You wouldn't want to see me in the nighttime. 1856 was a fine year for art. Let's take a look at some of the beautiful paintings of this time. Welcome back, children. Let's dive into the musical selections of 1856. 1856 was a fabulous year for music. Two of my favorites were the amazing Stephen Foster's Gentle Annie.
When the springtime comes, gentle Annie, when the
And Benjamin Hamby's Darling Nellie Gray.
There's a little green valley on the old Kentucky shore. There I've wild many happy Halloween. Yes,
Let's throw it back to those scrumptious boys at the news desk.
Now for a quick update in sports. If you happen to see any fellows running around with pennies and mid-calves, they are most likely playing a new sport called lacrosse. Similar to soccer, these athletes use sticks with netting to try and hurl a ball into a net. We caught up with one of these athletes who preferred to be called Lax Bro. Let's check this interview now.
So, tell me about this sport that's sweeping the nation.
Wow, bro. All you really do is you just put a ball in here and you crate a lot, bro. And you just throw it in the goal a lot, bro.
Oh. Do you see the sport gaining popularity in America?
Well, yeah, of course, bro. I mean, who wouldn't want to be like this, bro? Just goals all day, mid-cast all day, pennies all day, man.
Well, thank you for that thrilling interview.
No problem, bro.
In domestic news, there was a train crash on the Northern Pennsylvania Railroad.
The cause of this wreck was due to human error, as both trains were traveling in opposite directions on the same track.
Here's a reenactment of the crash. The faint of heart may need to look away. Approximately 60 people were killed.
And over 100 were injured.
Here's an artist's impression of the crash.
In other domestic news, violent outbursts continue to erupt in Kansas and Nebraska due to the constant struggle of whether they will be deemed free or slave states.
In other news, a hurricane destroys Last Island, Louisiana, killing over 400 people. After the tragedy, designs were created to build unbreakable levees so that New Orleans will never be affected by a hurricane ever again.
Ever.
Government officials were so serious about the designs that they recruited William Peary, designer of the unsinkable Titanic, to create these levees so that New Orleans will never be affected ever again. In economic news, despite the Great Railroad Crash, the railroad industry boomed in 1856. The first railroad bridge across the Mississippi River was completed, connecting Rock Island, Illinois, and Davenport, Iowa.
Also, the Illinois Central Railroad was completed, connecting Chicago to Cairo, Illinois. This stretched 700 miles, making it the longest railroad in the United States.
For more economic news, let's throw it over to Captain Currency
in the Money Corner.
100, 200. Oh, hello there. I'm Captain Currency here with Money Talk in the Cash Corner. In economic news, plantations and slave labor dominate the southern economy, while northern products such as manufacturing, mining, and mechanic arts produce over double the value of the southern cotton crop. This is due to mechanical improvements. And inflation is up 9% from 1838, which isn't that bad compared to other years. That doesn't bother me. Because I stack chips, and I make paper. Back to you, Dane.
In foreign affairs, the Anglo-Persian War began when Great Britain declared war on Persia.
The war broke out because Persia refused to withdraw from the city of Herat, and this did not sit well with British officials. The fighting has not ceased, and we expect a high death toll.
For more information on foreign affairs, let's send it over to Asian reporter Shu Mao,
who's gonna tell us all about the news.
Hello, I'm Shu Mao. The Second Opium War began as Great Britain wanted to legalize the opium trade in the Qing dynasty-controlled Chinese territory. When the Qing refused, fighting ensued. In other news, the Crimean War ended between the Russian Empire and a conglomerate of Western European powers over the territory in the declining Ottoman Empire. Peace negotiations have begun and fighting has ceased.
Thank you, Shu Mao, for that very interesting foreign report.
Now for our final segment, 1856 Year in Review.
Well, basically, in this year, oh, hey, Nick, where have you been?
Did you go to that party?
No. I went to Chili's until 9:40 p.m., at which point I went to my good friend Anthony Lee's house until 10:15, and then I went home.
Okay.
Alright.
1856 was a very important year politically because it was President Franklin Pierce's last term in office. Also, there were many heated debates between candidates Buchanan and Fremont. Eventually, Buchanan became president due to Fremont's inability to get backing from slave states. For a domestic report, let me head out to the field. Domestically, slavery was an important issue in 1856. Tensions rose between the North and the South, and this was shown through the Kansas and Nebraska situation. Violence erupted due to issues over popular sovereignty. Americans argued about whether states should be admitted as free or slave. This foreshadowed future disputes between the North and the South, which eventually reached a climax at the Civil War. Let's head back to Max with issues about social and foreign affairs.
In domestic news, many small battles are fought between pro- and anti-slavery forces in Bleeding, Kansas. 500 Mormons migrate from Iowa City to Salt Lake City. Universities of Maryland and Auburn are chartered. Auburn promises to never pay a student to attend their university, and Dallas, Texas becomes a city. Now let's send it out in the field for the foreign report. In foreign news, the Second Opium War and the Taiping Rebellion occur in China, the end of the Crimean Wars occurs, and the first railroads are constructed in Africa. Now let's send it back to the news desk for Nick with the economic report.
1856 was a big year in economics, but let's get more comfortable out in the field where I'll tell you about all the things that happened this year. (1856) was a big year in economics as the railroad industry boomed. The southern states still relied on slave labor in the plantations as well as the cotton crop in order to maintain their economy, while the north relied on manufacturing, mechanic arts, and mining. The north produced over double what the south produced, as this led to the separation of the sections. Let's head it back to the anchors at the news desk for the year in review, final decision.
Overall, 1856 was an important year because Philip Buchanan became the next president, marking a new era for Democrats. Also, there was much violence in Kansas and Nebraska over popular sovereignty.
In foreign news, the Second Opium War occurred, as well as the Taiping Rebellion, and railroads were built in Africa.
The rail industry in America, as well as the increase in manufacturing in the north, led to separation between the sections of north and south and an economic boom in the north. So overall, this year was pretty significant. Plus, nothing happened in women's rights, which is good for all of us.
But it's not over. We'll start it again. After the end of the day, it keeps getting better. Don't
we gon' taste this tea.
We'll do it together.